welcome to the Silicon Valley Entrepreneur. I'm Chris Gill, CEO of SVForum, and it's my pleasure to welcome here tonight. We have with us Rich Sutton, co-founder and CTO of Social IQ Networks, Lisa Dyson, founder and CEO of Kiverdi. Hope I said that right.
That's correct.
And Alan Safahi, founder and CEO of ZipZap. So thank you all for coming along. The reason that we have these three people here with us today is that their companies were all voted most likely to succeed at the 2012 Launch Silicon Valley event in June, and thought it would be a good thing to invite them along so they can tell us a little bit about what problems they're trying to solve, what they're doing with their companies, so that viewers can get some ideas as to what's going on in the startup world today. So, Rich, let me start with you. So what does Social IQ Networks do?
Social IQ Networks. We are a cloud-based platform targeting the enterprise. We solve issues around compliance and governance and security for social sites. So if you think of enterprises have adopted social, they've got Twitter accounts, they've got Facebook pages, they've got presences on Google+, they have YouTube channels, but they have issues around provisioning and deprovisioning administrators, dealing with comment activity, moderating what their users do on those pages, dealing with issues of malware and spam. And so we provide a cloud-based service that's frictionless, easy to adopt, that solves these problems.
Wow, that sounds pretty complicated, so we'll definitely come back to that. So Lisa, what about you? What does Kiverdi do?
Well, at Kiverdi, we are seeking to manufacture chemicals in a completely different way. So there's a lot of carbon-rich, energy-rich waste resources that are either in the landfills or burned or buried or otherwise underutilized. And we developed a technology that can take waste and turn it into oils and chemicals using biological processes.
Wow, that sounds pretty compelling. We'll definitely come back and talk some more about that one.
Great.
And Alan, can you tell us a little bit about ZipZap, please?
Sure. ZipZap is a global cash payment network. We help shoppers shop online and pay cash offline at retail locations or banks or post offices. So basically, when you think about someone shopping, especially global e-commerce, if you're in Brazil or Russia and you want to buy from the merchants in the US, either you don't have a credit card, or if you have one, they won't accept it here. We help them, pay locally in their own currency when they shop online. They don't have to use a credit card, and we just make that easier for them. And for merchants, there's no chargeback, there's no dispute, it's low risk, and it helps them open up a whole new channel.
Okay, these are all three very intriguing and quite sophisticated technologies that you've got here. Let me start with you, Alan. How did you see this as an opportunity?
Well, my background is in payments business for 17 years. In my former life, I ran a prepaid card company, prepaid MasterCard. Okay. And basically, we realized on a daily basis, we were getting people contacting us from all over the world trying to buy prepaid cards. And our mandate was to only sell to corporations and only in the US, so we couldn't service them. But I was very intrigued, so I started digging and asking questions and found out that people were buying these prepaid cards in order to shop from the merchants here because they couldn't use their credit cards, and and also because they didn't have credit cards. So we said, well, that's interesting. You're going online and you want to buy prepaid cards from us, have it shipped overseas, and go pay cash using wire transfer, all that extra work. Why don't you just go pay cash to begin with? You cut out all the middlemen. And they said, well, if there was an option like that, we would do it. So that's where the light bulbs went off, and we started talking to the merchants and seeing that there's a huge opportunity globally. In countries like Brazil and Russia, for example, 85% of all the transactions online are paid in cash offline. So people are already used to doing business like that in those countries. They just aren't able to do it cross-border. So that's what we do. We help them do the same thing they're used to doing, except shopping from merchants outside of the country.
So how does that work? I mean, if I'm here and I want to buy something from Amazon, let's say, I'm so used to getting online with Amazon. Once I've got it, giving them my credit card, or they already have my credit card information on file, and I buy it. But you're saying that I can do that, but I pay in cash at a local merchant?
Right, so what happens is when you're shopping online, you just go through the normal checkout like you always do. Right. At the end, instead of choosing to pay with a credit card or a bank transfer, you choose cash. And when you do that, then we would pop up a screen that shows you 3 locations near you, near your address, that you can go to finish that transaction. Now, that could be a Walmart location, it could be CVS or Albertsons, a number of partners that we have through partnership with MoneyGram, for example. In other countries, like in Russia, it's kiosks. That's what people are used to doing. In Brazil, it's banks and post offices.
Right.
So basically, the front end of the transaction is similar all over the world, but the last leg is customized to local market because we don't want to take the customers out of their comfort zone. If they're used to paying their utility bills, through the kiosk, we want them to continue doing that. If they're used to going to a bank or a post office and making payments for their online purchases, we want them to continue doing that. So basically, when you click on cash and we show you 3 locations, you can choose one of those locations, or you can put in a different zip code and we show you more locations.
Okay.
And then once you choose the location you want to go to, we generate a payment slip. It's a voucher that's sent to your phone, or it can be printed, and that has all the information you need to finish the transaction. And basically, you take that and go to the store, make a payment on your way to work, and immediately when you make a payment, we'll be notified and we'll tell the merchant in real time. So oftentimes, before you get to your office, the stuff is being shipped to you.
Wow.
Yeah, and from the merchant's perspective, there's no risk. They're getting a whole new segment of customers they didn't have before, and they don't have to worry about chargebacks or disputes because it's prepaid, it's upfront, there's no fraud. They won't have to ship until we tell them that the cash is received.
Terrific. Okay, I understand that. We'll definitely come back to you because some more digging in I want to do there. And obviously, turning waste into energy, this is a really interesting area. So why did you decide to go into this? What was this made you get connected to do this?
Well, I'm actually a physicist by training, and when I first started working in physics, I was working in plasma energy. And plasma is an attempt to harness the energy of the sun, an abundant resource. But the technology appears to be a few years out before it's commercialized. So the good thing about what we're doing is that we're also harnessing something that's abundant. Unfortunately, waste is abundant. Municipal solid waste, agricultural residue, manufacturing waste. So this is an opportunity to take that, rich in carbon, rich in energy, and convert it into fuels and chemicals.
And what type of fuels and
So we're actually, for our initial market entry, we're targeting an industrial chemical, a surfactant. And a surfactant is simply what we find in detergents and soaps. It's what we find both above and below the sinks in our kitchens and our bathrooms. And there's a lot of customer pull. There's companies are really looking for sustainable alternatives that can also be cost competitive. And our goal as a company is really to make sustainability profitable, and we believe we can do that with the technology that we're developing, because we have a low cost input, we have a high yield process, and we're making high value chemicals on the back end.
So is this in the development stage, or are you actually producing something? Are you actually making something work on it yet?
Yeah, well, initially we had the concept and we built the company. We thought some of the brightest minds to help us build the company at a national lab, and we hit some key commercial milestones, and now we're in the process of scaling. So we're in the process of partnering to take our technology to commercial scale and to have oils and chemicals in the marketplace.
Wow. And what does that mean to go to commercial scale?
Well, a large chemical manufacturing facility might be 10,000 tons a year. So these are large facilities. And our approach to commercialization is really to enter partnerships such as a joint venture structure with large chemical companies that are already manufacturing these chemicals in large quantities. And what we offer is a way of manufacturing these chemicals sustainably, using waste as an input, which leads to a product that has a lower carbon footprint ultimately, but more importantly, it's very cost competitive. And additionally, we can offer the benefit of not only making drop-in chemicals that we find today, but chemicals that have higher performance value. So you can think of detergents as an example where, a while ago we would have powder detergents, that would clean our clothes or what have you, but now we have liquids that can clean them in cold as well as hot. Those chemicals are greater performers, and we can make similar performing chemicals as well.
Okay. And just one question I read recently about a technology. There's somebody going around saying they've got a technology that can take waste and they can burn it at such high temperatures it gets rid of everything. That everything's gone. I don't know if you've read the same thing, but it sounds like what you're doing is a more interesting option, because you're not just devolving stuff into nothing, you're actually making something from waste.
Yeah, waste is rich in energy and rich in carbon, and our approach as a company is to reuse it, to take that carbon and put it in a chemical that is rich in carbon as well.
Right. Okay. So I want to explore some of that some more, but we need to really talk to you again as well, Rich, and find out more about how did this come up to be an opportunity for the company?
So I started the company with two other guys, with two other co-founders. The three of us came from a company called WebSense. We have a lot of security industry experience as well. I was at Symantec, they were at Checkpoint, so we know the security industry really well. I was an engineering lead, and my colleagues were on the marketing biz dev side. Particularly my CEO, Devin Redmond, he was the VP of Marketing and Product Management at WebSense. And he asked the question of his team, where are we on the social web? What accounts do we have? What pages do we have? Where are we? What do we control? What do we not control? What are the messages that we're putting out? And his team couldn't answer him, and there were no tools available to help his team answer him. And so that was the genesis of the idea. Immediately he recognized that there was a huge opportunity for somebody to develop a cloud-based application to help solve this problem, help a brand understand what are the pages and accounts that represent them on the social web, and collect them, get them under policy, get them adhering to acceptable use policies, put them under control.
So 2 questions for you here. So you saw, or Devin saw an opportunity there. How did he or you and he put together the founding team, and how did you come up with the solution that you've got now?
So that's actually an interesting question, because I think it goes at...
I'm glad you said it's an interesting question.
Yeah, great question. Yes. It goes at where we really think our approach is importantly innovative. A classic security approach is to command and control, to look for a choke point on a network or on a device and dictate that all communication, all network traffic goes to that point where you can control it. And a lot of the existing security vendors are taking this approach on the social web. They have appliances that they install in a network. They have software that goes on to a desktop or onto a device. Deployment is very difficult, it's onerous, and it doesn't recognize the simple fact that the vast majority of us use the social web from home computers and phones that IT doesn't control, right? I mean, I'm on Facebook from my iPhone. I tweet from my iPhone. The IT departments at companies I work for never controlled my iPhone. So our integration point is into the APIs of the social web. We integrate in the cloud at the point where the content actually gets displayed to the user, irrespective of where it gets into the social network. And that I think is the most important aspect of what we've done in terms of differentiating from the other folks that are trying to solve this problem. I think the first part of your question, though, was
team.
How did we build this team, right? Yep. So Devin was a close friend of Ray. They'd worked together at Checkpoint. They were working together at WebSense. They huddled up on the idea, saw the opportunity, and then they left WebSense, and then I approached them later to find out exactly what they were doing. They told me what their idea was. I said, that's genius, I want in on that, and joined. And then the first few engineers basically came in that same way. Through our personal networks, people that we explained the idea to and thought, that's fantastic, I want to be part of that.
And Devin and his co-founder already knew you, they'd experienced?
Yeah, we had worked closely together in some sense, yeah.
So that's the important factor. How about finding your team? Because again, this is a very complex area. How did you find your team?
Well, if you're trying to bring a biological process to market, there's several different types of expertise you need. And a good thing about the Bay Area is that there's a lot of biotech experts here.
Okay.
So you need microbiology expertise, bioprocessing expertise, metabolic engineering, and through our networks as well, we were able to access really quality people to come to the team. And beyond that, if you're going to take a chemical manufacturing process to scale, you really need people who have been in the chemical industry and who have scaled plants and who've built industrial plants. And so we again, looked in our networks and found lots of people that, were excited about this opportunity to make chemicals sustainably, and they joined our team. So
was this people you'd previously worked with, or tell me a little bit more about that, about the relationships you had with the early founding team?
Well, so myself and Dr. John Reed, we know each other from MIT, which is where we both went to grad school.
Right.
And we also were postdocs at Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and that's where we initially started working with, some of the top minds we believe in this area to help work with us to develop the technology. So when we were really in technology development phase, that's where we went. To access some people that we had worked with in the past and people that were part of institutions that we were part of. And then beyond that, through our networks, people started talking about this new way of taking waste and converting it into chemicals, and we started getting contacted by people within our network with, entrepreneurs that were looking for a transition from big corporation or from a startup that had grown to 300 people, and they were looking for something meaningful and something small where they can make a difference early on.
Right, okay. And Alan, what about your team? You said you've been 17 years in the prepaid industry. How did you find your team to do this somewhat different approach?
Well, I'm fortunate. I work with my son. He's a co-founder. So he helped. He and I came up with the idea. Then I was going back to the business school. I was at USC, and I recruited a couple of classmates to help initially, and then very quickly decided that this is a big project and requires people with financial services background. So I poked around in my Rolodex and people I knew in the industry and recruited some of the best people. I think if it's the most important job for me, at least, was to put the team together. And especially is important in financial services. There are so many regulations, so many potential pitfalls, with risk, with fraud, with legal obligations, that compliance, that you have to really be careful. So I hired some of the best people, chief compliance officer that came from Blackhawk and Wells Fargo, B of A. Hired the business development executive that came from MasterCard and Western Union. So just put a really strong team together, and people. Our CTO came from online shopping cart experience. So and that's it. You bring the best people, you encourage them, show them the vision, and just kind of stand away in the back and let them do their thing.
But it's a common theme that all three of you recruited the best people you could find in the industry. You recruited people that you knew or were referred and recommended to you. So you were able to build teams that had great credibility in the industries that you're in. I think that's a very important thing to get across to people, because I very often see startups who one or more of the founding team have no experience in a field.
Yeah, this was crucial for our success, at least, because we had to build a very large network. With payments, it's kind of, they call it the chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
You can't sign up merchants unless you have the customers and you have the retail locations, and you can't get the retail locations without the merchants. And for us to do this, what we did, our strategy was to build a network very quickly. And right now we are at 700,000 locations worldwide. So to get to that number of locations, we couldn't do it without having experienced, seasoned management team that knew the connections, the people to make that happen.
So you were in a very highly controlled area. How long did you go before you got your first sales?
Well, the idea has been kind of cultivating over a few years. We launched, we raised money last year, and our seed, and I put in some myself, and we raised some from outside, a couple of different VCs, and but we used that to finish the platform and do some testing for a few months, and we actually launched in January, but it took us till about end of May to get our first transaction.
Right.
So June was our first full month of transaction, and we doubled that in July and doubled again in August, and we're doing really well, on track to hopefully not quite double, but get close to that. So it's with payments, it takes a long time to get the first $1 million, and then you can get the second $1 million in a month, and then you can, and it's that kind of curve. But that's why a lot of people are afraid of getting into payment business, because there's just such a long incubation period.
Right, and you mentioned the figure of 700,000. Is that locations or transactions?
No, those are retail point of locations where people can go in their own country, like Brazil, Russia, US. We now have Canada. We have all the Caribbean countries. We're adding Mexico. So by the end of the year, we hope to be at over 1 million locations. it's a lot, but it's not a lot. You think about the whole globe. So we hope to eventually get to over 2 million locations worldwide.
Right.
So we want to be close to all the, within a few miles of anybody that wants to make a payment to us.
Okay, so it sounds you've had some pretty rapid growth in recent months. So Lisa, what about you? What's been happening with your company?
Well, recently we were awarded a project with the California Energy Commission to scale our technology to pilot scale. And this is really focused on taking waste CO2 emissions, flue gas emissions, and converting that into a palm oil replacement. And the reason why replacing palm oil is of use is there's increasing demand for palm oil. It goes into things like, not only can you make a renewable diesel out of it, but you make detergents and some of these other products that I was referring to.
Yep.
And there's over 45 billion kilograms a year that are consumed. And in the process of meeting this expanding demand, there's been an increase in removing rainforests in order to make room for palm plantations. So that's something that's not sustainable. At Kiverdi, we have an alternative way, which is to take waste, turn that into palm oil, drop-in replacement. It can be used directly to make a renewable diesel or to make a surfactant that can go into detergents.
Right. This sounds a very timely area, that you're taking CO2, so that horrible greenhouse gas that everybody talks about, and you're turning it into a useful product that will directly have an impact on saving rainforest. It's useful. It's like, this sounds outstanding. When are you going to have this online?
So this is a 2-year project
Yep.
to bring this pilot to full scale and
Yep.
operate and hit commercially viable targets so that we can go to the larger scale commercial production.
Okay, so 2 years down the road from now, you should have this up and running as a pilot scheme.
2 years for this particular project.
Right.
So our overall partnering model, so we're in conversations with a number of chemical companies to make specific products for them. And palm oil is one of the products that we can make, but we can make other products as well. And so our partnering strategy is really around targeting a chemical, working with a chemical company to qualify that chemical, and then scaling directly with them.
Got it. Okay. Rich, where's social IQ networks these days?
Well, we actually, I think maybe a little bit earlier stage. We've just closed our first rounds of angel funding, but we have been hard at work on the product. We took it to market about 4 months ago. We've now got onboarded fully 10 enterprise customers. One of them is Intel. We're working with some large media agencies around the world like Conrad Kane and Big Fuel. So, the trajectory is up.
Tell me a little bit more about this. I mean, how do you get a deal with a big corporation like Intel?
Well, it's very difficult. I heard the CEO of Box talking the other day at TechCrunch Disrupt in San Francisco, talking about new strategies for disrupting enterprise products and how the marketplace is really tilted towards startups and away from the traditional vendors. And I think there are 2 important ways that you have to go to market today as an enterprise vendor. The first is to think big and shoot high, talk to CEOs, try to be on the strategic roadmap for any large enterprise, and score big deals around being a strategic player for a major problem in an enterprise. But you've got to couple that with a secondary strategy of coming in low, having a frictionless and easy adopted product that a line manager can fit into a budget, adopt without needing approval, higher up the chain, and sort of bring a groundswell of use inside of an enterprise. And we've had success in both of those directions. We have come into a couple of our customers from the very top where the CMO told the CIO, this is strategic, it's important, we've got to have it. And we've had other cases where, for example, at Intel is one of those as well. At Intel, they have hundreds of offices around the world. They have thousands of presences on the social web, on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. But we entered into a specific group that recognized that problem and adopted us for just their piece of the action. And that will accelerate us throughout that organization, I'm sure.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about your plans? I know it's difficult to forecast the future, but if you've got 10 customers now,
Sure.
Where do you anticipate you'll be in a year or two's time?
Yeah, well, we have revenue projections that are into the hundreds of customers by the end of the year and the thousands through 2013. I think the key thing for us over the next 6 months is really going to be new avenues to market around partners in the social media publishing space. What's been very interesting to us is we are earlier in the market than we thought we would be. Enterprises, our target customers, are still becoming aware that there is this problem and that there are solutions that can help them solve it. Whereas people in the social media publishing space, the agencies, the marketers, the agencies that specialize in the social web, folks like Wildfire and Vitru and Buddy Media, are keenly aware of this problem. When they're going into their customers to sell basic social media brand management services, those customers are coming back and saying, what are you doing about the security problem? And so they're bringing us in with them. So we're finding this interesting sort of pull into the marketplace around the people that know the most about the problem ahead of where enterprises really, we think, will be in another 6 months.
Right. Now, so something else came up with both you and Alan while we were talking earlier about this. You were both looking to move from Southern California up to Silicon Valley. Can you, both of you, tell me why you are doing that?
Because for some reason, despite the fact that we've got Skype and the ability to work anywhere and be productive anywhere, you still have to have your body here in Silicon Valley so you can work closely with your investors.
Well, my wife is third generation Orange Countian, and for me to convince her to move to California was very difficult. And what finally I think did it was I told her that if you live 2,000 years ago in the Roman Empire, would you want to live anywhere but Rome? I said, this is for payment business. This is the capital of payments in the world. You have Visa, you have Square, you have Google Checkout, you have PayPal, you have Facebook credits. All of the major movers and shakers in the payment business are here in Silicon Valley.
Right.
And so we need to be here, and there's something in the air. You meet people all the time, you recruit people, you come up with ideas, you go to TechCrunch and events like that. So I'm commuting right now, and it's very difficult because I miss some appointments just because I'm not here. And so, relocation is on top of our list.
The commute is definitely difficult. Our industry obviously is here as well, right? Facebook, Google, Twitter. But I think the key thing really is the investors are here, right? The VCs are here, and for, again, all the technical advancements that we've had in the last 10 years working remotely, the venture capitalists really want you to be close.
Yes. Yes. And Lisa, does the same thing apply to you, or will you be going to build plants wherever you need to build plants?
I would definitely say it applies as well, and I'm actually from Southern California, so
Right.
I ended up here.
Gosh, I didn't realize that
I go back
California.
at least once every
invading.
2 months or so to see my
Right.
niece and nephew,
Okay.
and my brother too.
Yeah.
But for us, definitely, obviously the investors are here. We raised our first round of financing last year,
Right.
but also this is a biotech hub. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of people here. There's a lot of people who've scaled technologies. This is where people come to build biotech companies. So it's been very crucial for us to be here to access those minds and to extend our footprint as well. One of the things that we do as a small company is leverage the infrastructure of the local universities and the local national labs. So Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, UC Berkeley, UC San Francisco. These are all places that have core facilities that we can use to advance our bioprocess and build our technology at a low cost, and in some cases no cost, minimal cost. So it allows us to leverage resources that are available in addition to accessing those minds.
Okay, we're starting to get a bit tight on time. I've had the signal. We've only got a few minutes left. So is there anything that you might like to add from your experiences for the entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs who are watching that could help them?
Absolutely. When you try to build a company, the most important thing is execution. So focus on execution, surround yourself with a great team, and pursue it with all of your heart, and be focused on executing on your goals.
Okay. Alan, anything from your point?
This is my fourth startup, well, fifth if you count the first one I did as an experiment. But it comes naturally for me from being an executive, in my family of entrepreneurs. But I know a lot of my friends and classmates from my MBA program who, you can be reduced to tears when you think about, starting a new company. It's so scary for them. And I'm just telling them, the advice I give them is just do it. Even if it's like I did. I was an engineer for BASF, and I just did a startup janitorial business just to see how it is to start a company.
Right.
And then after a few months, I just kind of gave it away to my partner. But I just tell people, just do it. That's the only way you really are going to learn how to do it. And but you have to pick something you're really, really passionate about, and something that you would do for free, because you're going to wind up doing it for free for a long time.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
So you have to really enjoy it, and it has to be passionate. Same advice I give my kids. Don't worry about what job you get, just as long as you enjoy it. Because if you enjoy it, you're going to be good at it, and if you're good at it, you're going to make money anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was Alan made a very key observation there, which is that any investor is going to want to see that you are willing to put your money where your mouth is, right? You're going to have to work for free for a period of time. You are going to have to not only invest your emotional, intellectual capital, but your actual capital in what you're doing. So you've got to be prepared to do that, which means that you have to be living a life that allows you to do that. You have to be financially responsible in your own personal finances in your own personal life to be able to make that kind of an investment, which is why I think it's typically easy for people who are 22 and 23 and 24 to start companies. They have very little on the line at that time. But if you are in your 30s or 40s and you have a family and you have obligations, then you've got to live a life that prepares you for the investment of being in a startup.
Yeah, okay. Great inputs from all of you. Thank you, all of you, for coming along and sharing the information and your insights and the history of your companies. Wish you all success in the future. It sounds like you're all on great paths. So I'm getting the wrap-up sign. So it's good night from me, Chris Gill, and the Silicon Valley Entrepreneur, and I look forward to seeing you again next month.